1. Here we are, live on Facebook again. It's Indy. Saturday, February 20th. It's what, 2 weeks in a row here, below freezing. But tomorrow's going to be 36, heat wave coming in. So we're going to see if we can get Kyle's bike back together. So if he wants to ride, he can ride next week. You know? So let's get started. Where we left off last week was we were getting ready to install the cylinders. Something we're going to do, actually, before we put the cylinders on, that I don't know if there's any publication on it, I don't know if Harley talks about it, but these cylinder studs, we're going to check the tightness of all of these cylinder studs to make sure that we don't have any movement. Cylinder studs get torqued to 120 to 240 inch-pounds. So we're just going to set it at, let's say, maybe 180. And in order to do this, I'm going to use an old head bolt, which I have right here. I took off these are one-time use. You can only use these once. You got to replace them every time. And I'm going to put a ball bearing down in it that I have right here. So we take a ball bearing, we drop it down in there. And we tighten it down on it. Set our torque wrench. So that's 120 to 240. And this is a 9/16. So here we go. Look at that. See that? See how much that moved? Now what that could do is when we go to bolt these heads on here, if we hadn't have checked these cylinder studs, they could cause a head gasket leak. The reason we know that is because, well, we've seen it. Just don't want to lose that ball bearing. That ball bearing's in there so that this doesn't tighten down on this, and it'll allow us to get it back off of there. That one was a little loose. Yep, I felt that one move too. It's another trick of the trade. There we go. All right, so we know that this side's good. So now we're gonna move to the other side. A little time consuming. But it will save you a headache down the road from having to take this whole thing back apart to do just this. not moving much. But they are moving maybe 1/8 of the turn, 1/4 of the turn. Last one.
Ball bearing back away here. It's a special tool I don't want to lose.
Good. Oh God.
Okay. Now comes the fun part. Now we're going to try to get these cylinders down on here. Let's see. I need some Screamin assembly lube. That's the one thing Ray didn't get me.
Jarrett, get Ray. Please.
Let's get our piston ring. Piston ring compressors out here. I tend to start on the rear cylinder. Actually, before we do that, kind of waiting on Ray to get us our assembly lube. I'm going to clean these gasket surfaces up, a little bit of brake clean on a rag, and then I'm going to go ahead and get my base gaskets on.
What's the problem?
That. That's the problem. The thing just, as soon as the cord nips anything, it just yoinks.
Right, yeah. Okay. Start over. Put the, loosen these cylinder studs back up a little bit.
Just stuff in my pocket for now, I guess. We'll figure it out. How'd you reset it?
I need some Screamin assembly lube. It's up on my shelf. You know what I'm talking about? Thanks, Ray.
Thanks, Ray.
Sorry, Chris.
It's okay. So we're starting over. We're going to loosen these studs back up.
No.
Yeah. See, a little bit of brake clean on a rag, and I'm just going to kind of go over this gasket surface. The surface is basically brand new. There's nothing really stuck to it. But I like to have perfect mating surfaces when going together. The old twin cams actually had a groove cut in this case right here because the twin cams use an O-ring. It's a base O-ring instead of like a base gasket. And you always got to make sure that groove's cleaned out so that O-ring's got a nice place to sit. Thank you, Ray.
Hey, Adam. I thought he wanted Adam. Sorry, Adam. I can't see that far.
All right, there we go.
Yeah. Sorry, Adam. I can't see that far. I ain't got glasses on. Yeah.
All right, so these are our head gaskets. This is what they consider a multi-layer steel head gasket, obviously because there's 3 layers to it. Those are our head gaskets. These are our base gaskets. It's a metal base gasket, kind of reminds me of like an Evo. It's pretty simple. There's an up with an arrow. So this side's gonna go up, the arrow is gonna go towards the front of the bike. We'll just go ahead and drop those down on there. Because if you forget to put them on now, they won't go on later. There we go. I don't even want to go on with these rings getting in the way. There we go. Base gaskets are on.
What are you running on your bike? Is your bike all SS built?
Huh?
Is your bike all SS built?
No. I've used S&S parts before. I'm actually taking an S&S cam out of my bike. If Luke's watching, he may know where it's going to end up, the one I'm taking out. He rides a switchback, and he's wanting to try to keep up with his buddies that all have built bikes. Right? Yeah, don't ride a switchback. No. Just kidding. Switchbacks are cool. That's what we were talking about this morning. If you drive by on a switchback at 100, people are like, wait, was that a street light? So this is the fun part. So these are our ring compressors. So what this tool is designed to do is compress all of our rings so that they're real snug up against the piston so that we can get the cylinder down. This always doesn't work the first time. Sometimes you have to take the cylinder back off and start over so you can reset these ring compressors, because there's a lot that has to happen. The cylinder has to go down on here perfectly square, because the studs have got to go up through the cylinder as well as the piston. And this piston has movement, okay? So we'll be trying to hold the piston straight and the cylinder straight to walk it down on there. But if it catches a cylinder stud and the cylinder kind of goes down at an angle, these rings can pop out, and you got to start over because you can easily bend these rings, and we don't want to do that. So let's see here. Let's get our rear cylinder. That's our rear. I'm going to take that brake clean rag, and I'm just going to run it on the base gasket surface here, just to make sure that I don't have any oil or contaminants or anything like that on the gasket surface. So we're good. And they give you plenty of clearance here. Spark plug wire over there messing with me. Okay, so I'd rather be lucky than good any day. So we got lucky, first try. So what I do, what?
You literally sat here for the last 3 weeks and told me this is going to be the worst part about it. You do it in the first try.
That's only one.
Yeah, you just jinxed it. Thanks.
That's what
Yeah.
I'm for.
But I'm telling you, there are days that I'll stand back there and I'll pull that cylinder off, 2 or 3 times trying to get it to reset. Now that I've got it like this, what I always do is I take a little bit of the Screamin Eagle assembly lube. Some guys will use engine oil. I like using this stuff because it's real thick, like I said, like molasses. And I just put a little bit on the skirts of the piston, on the front and the back. Those are our thrust surfaces. And if we don't start this bike for a while, at least we're not going to have a dry startup. There will be a little bit of lubrication on the front and the back of that piston skirt. See, that tells you how tight those rings are because it's holding that cylinder there. And then you just rock the cylinder all the way down. All right, let's do it again. Stick around. We got a front cylinder to do yet too, so. Okay, there we go, just like that. So the rear's on. One more.
No pressure.
All right, yeah. Now I don't know if you can see or not. This ring compressor actually has the word bottom on it with an arrow. It's supposed to be pointing towards the bottom of the cylinder. I think they use these on cars and trucks. And when you're doing this on a car and truck, most of the time you're upside down. See, I haven't even started, and these rings are trying to pop out on me. Those oil control rings are very, very finicky. Sometimes you don't want to tighten the ring compressors up too much because then they won't slide down the piston, but in this case, I like to get them as tight as I can. Another little trick of the trade that I learned from the guy that I learned from is if you drop your piston ring compressors down a little bit so that the top of the piston right here is protruding up through the ring compressors, that will help us center that cylinder because part of the battle is centering the cylinder over the piston. So if we leave that down a little bit like that, that helps center that piston in the cylinder. At least that's the theory. Make sure it does say front. All right, see, now we got our cylinder. Well, we made that look easy.
Good for you.
I'm kind of annoyed right now.
Well, you know what? Yeah, I can't say what I want to say on camera. Right, yeah. Tell Connor what he can do. Connor can go find us some Girl Scout cookie money, or the Girl Scouts are going to come after him.
I do need to pay you.
I wasn't here when they were here, and I'm very upset.
Well, you know what? I might know somebody.
Well, it's too late. I went to the mall yesterday, and there was a Girl Scout, and I gave her all my money.
Well, that's good. The Girl Scouts appreciate
They
that.
all need it.
There's an ATM down the street.
I tipped him $5, no big deal. I was scared that an 8-year-old couldn't make change, so I was just like, just keep it.
She shouldn't have been by herself.
I'm sure someone's close by.
Yeah.
She's even by herself. Got the new s'mores one. Chef's kiss. Beautiful.
Yeah. You better eat those up because Jason Probst was saying that the s'mores are going to go away. And they just came out, yeah.
Continue to only talk about cookies and
I mean, I'd destroy a box of Samoas right now.
Oh, yeah. I know what we're having for lunch.
Get that cylinder down in there. Come on, honey. There you go. There it is. So we got our cylinders on. Pistons are on. So now we're going to put our heads on. And before we put our heads on, basically I've got to transfer stuff off of the old heads onto the new heads, i.e. Our NOx sensors, our engine temp sensor. We got to get our compression releases. Yep, we got to get our compression releases out of the old heads and into the new heads. And then there was a service bulletin. They've had a few service bulletins that have come out regarding the torque on these heads, and so I made sure that we had those printed out this morning. One of the things that we always did on the M8s and the twin cams was we oiled our the flanges. Where'd that one go? So when we go to put these on, they always say to oil the bottom of this flange. It helps, with lubrication and torque. What we also used to do is we'd put a little bit of oil in the threads right here. This service bulletin that we just printed out that was revised on the 13th of this month, or no, that's last year. So they do not want you to use oil on the threads, on the M8s. Twin cams, we still use it. M8s, we do not. That is a change because everybody that has built these things forever is always used to lubing the threads and the flange. So on the M8s, it's only the flange. Nope. No Loctite, just bolt them up. So let's see here. I wonder if they get mad if I got that table dirty.
I think they'd understand.
Well, I can get this. Because there is oil in these. Yes, we got to take, this is our knock sensor right here. We got to take that out, put it on the new one. This is our compression release. We got to take that out. That center spark plug, we're going to pull that out. It's awful quiet over there, Connor.
What's that?
It's awful quiet.
Yeah, I guess he's got a bunch of very interested viewers.
No hecklers.
Tell Mike he's the timeout I can't.
The timeout box. These compression releases, while it seems like a really simple thing, I've seen them, brand new bikes, I've seen these compression releases just a little bit loose. And what happens when you've got a compression release that's a little bit loose is it sounds like an exhaust leak. I'll actually have Ray, I need to have Ray clean these up. Let me get the other one out. Hey Brandon, will you see if Ray can help me out for a second? I'm just pulling the other release, that's all I'm doing, so that he can have both of them to clean them up. Can you do me a favor and wire wheel these? Just get that crap off of them, please.
Yes, sir.
Please and thank you. These are our knock sensors. This is all new to M8 technology. Basically, this piece just sits, it rests up against the head, and it can detect. Honestly, it can detect. They told us if you put different exhaust on your bike, that the harmonics in the exhaust, the sonic waves that occur in the exhaust pipe, that knock sensor can actually feel those up in the cylinder head. That those are real. Finicky. And then our, let's see, temp sensor should be in the other head. So it should be everything we need out of that one. And these bolts don't have any Loctite on them or anything. So this just rides right up there on that cylinder head like that. I believe these go to 90 inch-pounds, but I'm gonna look it up. Because if you over torque them, it can damage the sensor, and then you've caused another issue. Yeah, 13 to 17 foot-pounds. So I'm gonna go probably 14. There's that. Knock sensors in. When Ray gets back, we'll put that compression release back in. Go ahead and put the spark plug back in. I don't use much anti-seize on spark plugs, but I do. I don't here if you can see that. I put just a little bitty dab right there on those threads. It helps if you ever have to take it out of there. You don't want to get it on the electrode, but just a little bit right there on the threads. My inch-pound torque wrench. There it is. These spark plugs, unlike the twin cams spark plugs, I torque those to 14 foot-pounds. M8 spark plugs only go to 100 inch-pounds. Which is not a lot. I feel like the last few weeks I was kind of working slow, trying to take my time. Now it's pressure's on. We need to get it done. Sensor. Our engine temp sensor, I believe, takes one of these special sockets. There it is, right there. I think it's a 14 millimeter. Little side note on engine temp sensors. They can wreak havoc.
Sure did.
What's the matter? So an engine temp sensor, most of the time you get a sensor that goes bad, it'll throw a code when it causes a runnability issue. An engine temp sensor can be bad, and let's say you fire your bike up and this sensor is bad and it's reading like negative 30 degrees. The ECM is going to throw all kinds of fuel at this bike thinking that the bike is at negative 30 when in all reality it's 70 or 80 degrees outside. It's not going to throw a code because negative 30 is the temperature. And you won't know it until we hook them up. The easiest way I do is hook it up to the computer. And if you look at like your intake air temperature sensor, and if it's setting at 70 degrees, your engine temperature, if it is also, if it hasn't been fired up, it should be setting at about 70 degrees also. So if you look at one and it's 70 and one is like negative 30 or something like that, it's odds are you got a bad engine temp sensor. And sometimes they'll never throw a code. And we've seen that. What's he got? I need to look the torque up on that. Engine temp sensor, 11 foot-pounds.
I didn't want to get crap.
No, you're fine, thank you.
Yes, sir.
See, I just had him clean these threads up. they've got like a sealant and a Loctite that they put on them. And I'm going to show you what I use to put those back on. Okay. There it is. This goes to 11, which 11 foot-pounds is not a lot. Get our knock sensor in. See how I'm kind of holding that sensor up when I torque that so that that sensor is still making contact with the head. All right, so our sensors have been changed. Now we're going to take these compression releases. Basically what I've got, this is Teflon tape, liquid Teflon tape that we use on our drain bolts, like your engine oil, transmission, primary fluid. When we change those drain bolts have got an O-ring on them, and we also use a little bit of this liquid Teflon tape. This stuff is liquid Teflon that actually has a little bit of blue Loctite mixed in with it. And so I'll use this on these. I'll use this on the breather bolts when we get ready to put the air cleaner back on. So not only does it help seal, but it's also going to help hold it just a little bit. And you don't need a lot. You just kind of coat the threads like so. ACR goes to 17 to 19. See, that's what happens. On the old sensors, you got to be careful because the old sensors, if it skips like that, you're in trouble. There we go. The old compression releases actually had a boss that came off of the release that this gap would fit down on. And if it spins like that, like it just did on me, then you can't get your socket back off. So you got to loosen the whole thing back up. There we go. All right, so our releases are in. So basically our cylinder heads are ready to go on. These are our new head bolts that somebody's just already put in here for us. That looks pretty, doesn't it? All that machine work in there. I just flipped them over so that I could take a rag here with some brake clean. I'm just gonna clean that surface off. I'm gonna clean this surface off over here. Especially with the steel head gaskets, the layered head gaskets, you wanna make sure that you don't have any burrs or debris. If we were reusing the stock heads, there's a bunch of crap on there. Make sure we get all that stuff off there. There's some right there in that corner. Oops. Don't tell anybody. I got the table dirty.
Be sure to edit that out.
Yeah. All right, so yeah, we're ready to put these heads on. Let's get our head gaskets on. The head gaskets should only go on one way. Sometimes I will try to, there's these little rivets that are holding them together. Sometimes I'll just put them on so that the rivets are in the same spot. That's that. Let me get my oil out. I always use clean engine oil. I'll just put a little bit in this cap. Ready? This is what we do. Just take a little bit of oil, run it around the flange right there. What that's going to do is that's just going to put a little bit of lubrication between this and that surface down there that we're clamping against. Get these basically finger tight, and then we'll look at the instructions on how they want us to torque them down. Because if I remember right, we got to go to a torque and then we've got to loosen them up one turn. Kind of sets everything into place before we go and put our final torque on it. Nice thing about putting new heads on is you don't have to worry about there being any oil down inside the holes for the threads. Everything's clean, brand new. Are you singing?
Yeah, I like this song.
You like this song?
I'm an old man at heart.
You're an old man at heart. Obviously, we don't want to drop these. Be an expensive mistake. There's dowels. What I'm looking for is the dowels. There they are. And the dowels will help center that down on there. I'm just using a socket on these, just makes it a little bit easier. Anytime you're using a socket, when they say to start stuff by hand, if you use a socket or even an extension and you're still using your fingers, that's just an extension of your fingers. So when you go to put wrenches on stuff and start stuff with wrenches, that's when we cross thread. Go ahead, say it. I know you want to say it.
Nope.
Cross thread's better than Loctite. So you want to come back apart. All right. So there, I've got all of them basically finger tight. So they'll set on there. I'm going to get out my service bulletin here, the latest and greatest, that tells us the torque. So here we go. First torque goes to 20 to 30 foot-pounds, and then we're going to loosen it 360 degrees. Thought one of these had the sequence on it. I'll get the sequence out of the book here. I believe there is a sequence. Yep, here we go. I don't know if you can see this or not. That's our sequence. It tells you the front of the bike and which head bolts we're gonna torque. First, second, third, and fourth. So the first torque, what did we say, was 20 to 30, so I may go 25. And they want to start with number 1 being over here. Now, sometimes I won't always go all the way down. Like, I'll just kind of put some tension on it, and then I'll come over here. That way I kind of draw them down even. I'm not just going to put it on number 1 and go until I hear it click. I'm getting them all kind of snug down. There we go. And I am looking at the sequence. I'm not just guessing. Bless you. So there we go. Our first torque is done. Now we're going to loosen them all. 1 turn. See, that one wasn't very tight. That one is, though. All right, all those are loose. Yep, okay. So all of them are loose. Loosen 1 turn, second torque. So now we go back to 9 to 11 foot-pounds. So I'll probably just set it at 10. So that's right in the middle. Again, I'm just kind of getting them all snugged down here. Because 10's not much. Now we go 18 to 20. I'm going to go at 19. Now comes the fun one. I believe it's 90 degrees. Yep, so now we're gonna go 90 degrees. So there's a couple different ways to go 90 degrees. Sometimes they'll tell you to use like a grease pencil, and you can mark a line on the head bolt, and then basically you're just gonna move that 90 degrees. I actually have a torque wrench that will do that for us. Actually got it off Shane. It's a snap-on torque wrench. It probably retails for, I don't know, $600. And I got it for like $250. And so that torque wrench will torque to 90 degrees. So this thing will beep or vibrate when we get to 90 degrees. Because sometimes you can't get, you know, just a good 90 degrees. Sometimes you may get 45 and have to go another 45. This counts that. So at 90 degrees, I'm gonna come over here on the other side. That way I get a good swing on this first one. See, that one went to actually 99 degrees at 54 foot-pounds. That one over there went to like 96 degrees and like 45 foot-pounds. So now we'll do the front. We start over there by Nate. And basically what I'm doing is I'm just trying to get as close to 90 degrees as possible, just so you can get that one good swing instead of having to do multiple. We got 1, 2 is right here. 3's over there. Yeah, just don't start counting.
Just start over. Go back through that again.
And 4 is right here. See, that one didn't get it. But we're good now. So, just like that, our heads are on and torqued. So now what we can do is we can work at getting our, we get our O-rings swapped out on our pushrod tubes, and we can get our pushrod tubes in. We get our pushrod tubes in, and we may go ahead and throw a throttle body in. And then we're off to the races, putting the rocker boxes back together. I don't need this. This is old. So are these. So these push tubes come with new O-rings, or we get new O-rings in the kit, so we always replace our O-rings. So we'll pop that one out. I always run a rag through here, kind of clean off all the excess oil. These M8 pushrod covers are actually kind of cool because they put like a little bevel right here. Kind of helps so you don't cut the O-ring. There's one ready to go. These pushrod O-rings, while it seems like it's just a easy little thing to change out, you got to be careful doing it, because if you damage this one right here that we're putting in, you can't change it without taking the motor apart, because once we get it in there, that pushrod's solid, and so you won't be able to change that O-ring out. That's why we don't reuse them either. Sorry, Nate. I feel like your arm's getting tired.
No, it's my shoulder. Bad
Oh.
shoulders. It's a good experience for me, too. I get to learn stuff, too.
True. That's true. Well, and a lot of times there's little things that I'll do that I don't really know that I'm doing them anymore. You know, it's just habit. Well, why do you do that? Well, this is why I do that. Okay, so the center O-ring and our push tube is changed. Your push tubes actually have, or pushrod tubes have got 3 O-rings. You got there's one down here on the bottom. I'll put all of those in. Just like that, those just sit there in that groove. And then we got our big yellow ones. And the big yellow ones actually go up in the head. If you were reusing, you know, the old heads, you definitely want to make sure that you get the old O-ring out before you put the new O-ring in. It'll cause a leak. Just like that. You might be able to get it like right here on top. You can see the yellow. Normally I'll look through the top as I'm putting it in from the bottom to make sure you're getting it centered in there. So all I need is a screwdriver. I think Jim's makes a tool to do this, but I just use a screwdriver. See how that just clicked right down into place? Do the same thing up top. This piece just slides up. Push that right up in there. Take your clip, and it's just a spring. It's spring loaded. See, so we just kind of, just like that. can't see. There it is. Just like that. Pushrod tubes are in. All of our O-rings have been changed. Right now, I mean, you could probably go ahead and drop the push rods down in there if we wanted to. We only have 2 different length push rods nowadays. Evos actually had 4 different length push rods. These Milwaukee 8s, we only have 2. So even though I know how they came out because of how I set them down on there, I will still set them on my lift, and you can see which one's the longer one and which one's the shorter one. The longer one's going to go on our exhaust side because it's got farther to go, and the shorter one's going to go on the intake. So we can go ahead and drop those down in there if we want. See, I've switched those around. I just double check. It's habit. Shorter one's gonna go in the intake. That wire, we're gonna have to put that back up in there eventually after we get our throttle body in there. Now I think I'm gonna go ahead and put the throttle body in just because it's easier to kind of work it in now versus when I've got the lower rocker boxes on there. When you get the lower rocker boxes on there, there's not as much clearance to get that throttle body in there. So where's our throttle body? There's our throttle body. Oh, you know what? We're gonna have some work to do on this throttle body too. So it comes with injectors, but I've got to get the fuel rail off of this one. Fuel rail and a sensor. That's like that's our map sensor, I believe. Map sensor, it also doubles as intake air, or no, not intake air, idle air control. Those are our old ones. I don't want the T25. I'm gonna be careful not to damage that O-ring because this kit does not come with one. So it doesn't look bad, but I'm just gonna lube it up a little bit, then we're gonna put it back down in there. Spit on it, and we're good to go. I am gonna get the torque spec on this bolt because I don't remember it. It's probably inch-pounds. And I don't see it in here. Page 621 will tell us. Where's it at? T-map. T-map, there it is, 22 to 40 inch-pounds. That's why I looked it up, because that is not much. So there's 40. We'll go to 30. Now then, this comes, our kit comes with injectors, but it doesn't come with this fuel rail. So I gotta get this fuel rail off of this one so that we can put it on here. We'll probably lose some gas. That's our old throttle body. So the old injectors, you used to be able to rotate them once you got them down in there, but these new ones, I know that they won't rotate like the old ones would, and that's why. There's a locating pin on the back of the injector, and this is just a plastic groove that sits in. You twist this, and that'll break. Luckily, there's a little bit of gas. I did lose a little bit of gas when I popped those out, but that little bit of gas just helped us kind of lubricate our O-rings.
Are those injectors the same as the other ones? Or no?
Let me see here. I don't know if there's a part number on these or not. I'm not sure. Sometimes they put part numbers on them. I would assume that they're bigger. Yeah, the numbers on them are different. I'd have to look in the book though to double check. You know what I mean? I don't want to tell you that they are and them and them not be. This is kind of a trick. You got to kind of work these down in here together and not put it in backwards. How about that?
We're human, it's okay.
Yeah. There they go. Those O-rings are pretty forgiving, but yeah, like I said, once you get this in here, you can't, the old injectors on twin cams, you could move those injectors around in there. These, you do not want to do that. I gotta look up the spec for that because I don't remember that either. See, fuel injectors, page 625. Fuel injectors. Fuel rail screw, 30 to 50 inch-pounds. So that's not much either. We'll go to 40. It's not a lot. I mean, we're torquing down against plastic here. So there we go. They give you some extra O-rings in case you damage. The one thing that I need out of here, these are our intake seals. So we've got our intake flanges. They're gonna go all like so. And then this seal is kinda got a taper to it. And that taper goes in like that. So the flat edge is going to be against our cylinder head. This is a very, very common part that fails. If you get a bike, any bike, whether it's carbureted, fuel injected, I don't care what year it is, if all of a sudden it starts hiccuping, running lean, like you've pushed the choke in too far, too early or something, just starts popping and bucking on you, a lot of times, I mean, this is a rubber seal. It's in a tough environment. Okay, this motor gets up, we run, you know, our operating temp is what, 260 degrees. And so this is in a rough environment. It gets really hot, it gets cold, and then it gets really hot again, and that rubber will deteriorate. Once that rubber deteriorates, this is our intake seal, so your fuel's coming through here. So if you've got more air mixing with your fuel at this point, you're really leaning it out. We don't want to mix air at this point. The air comes in out here. We don't want air coming in right here. Easiest way to check that, we have a special tool that basically is just an adapter that we screw onto a propane tank or a propane, little camping propane tank, or I've got a MAP gas, which is a different kind of propane, and we'll just squirt them. We'll start the bike up, and with the bike running, and this is sitting in there, you can just squirt some propane right there at these flanges, and if your idle raises up or down, you've got intake leak. They're not hard to change. You're probably looking at like an hour labor, maybe an hour and a half, but that's very common. Another one is this little plug right here. That's just a rubber plug. We see bikes come in all the time that rubber plug is either gone or the piece that covers the inlet there is gone, just the outside's left. That creates an intake leak. And with these bikes being so lean from the factory to meet EPA regulations, any intake leaks are going to seriously affect our runnability. I'm going to go ahead and put 2 bolts in, the bolts on the other side, just because our flanges don't go all the way around. They're cut out, and so that'll help us guide this throttle body in. I don't use any Loctite on these bolts. Something that I like to do to help with the alignment of this is I've got the breather over here. And what I'll do is after I get this throttle body in here and I'll get all the screws in and just kind of snug them up, I'm going to use this backing plate. I think there are companies that make a tool. It's like an alignment tool for your induction module or throttle body, they call it. And I'll use it to kind of line up our throttle body. I'll even probably set our breather bolts in out here just to kind of line that throttle body up so I know we've got the throttle body where we want it. Sometimes this can be tricky, getting all of this in here without your flanges falling off. Like I said, it's easier to do it right now than it is to do with the rocker boxes on. Are we in over there? Can you tell? Well, I can see threads right here to get this bolt in. And basically I just start the bolts. I get them started. All right, those are started. So that throttle body will kind of sit there, right? It's not going to fall off. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this backing plate for our air cleaner. I'm just going to use it as, like I said, like a guide. Because if I go ahead and, if I just kind of guess at this, okay, well, that looks good for the throttle body being right there, and I snug our bolts down, that throttle body is going to be stuck. I mean, yes, it's sitting in rubber, but it's going to be where, you know, once you tighten it down, it's going to be right where, and it may need to come up or it may need to go down. So that's why I'm using this backing plate right here. It's kind of like a guide, and it takes the guesswork out of it. So I'll just kind of snug these bolts up to the throat of the throttle body. Let's see, if you look, right through here is where our breather bolts go. These are where our breather bolts go. They're right here. So our breather bolts have got, one goes in here and one goes in here. Right now I can't see any threads. So I got to kind of move this throttle body around. See that? See how we got all kinds of movement there? I want to kind of center it up. And I'll start that one right there. You see threads back there? Yep. And seeing if I let go of it, it's going to kind of move around a little bit. So what I'll do is I'll get my 7/16 and I'm going to snug those up. I'm not going to tighten them, but I'm just going to snug them up just so it kind of holds our throttle body exactly where we want it. And I like to just kind of center it. There we go. So that's going to hold our throttle body while we tighten it. Let's see here. Throttle body to manifold screws. Looks like they go to 35 to 53 inch-pounds. Actually, no, they don't either. Right here, they go to 96 to 156. Induction module flange adapter screws, and those are our flange adapters. So we're going to take them to 96 to 156, so somewhere in the middle of that, about what, 120-ish? And these, I try to draw these kind of down evenly. So I'll do a little bit on the rear, I'll do a little bit on the front, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to the other side, and I'm going to run the other side in just a little bit. One thing I will not do after I get this throttle body in is I will not hook my injectors up yet. I'm not going to hook any of these wires up yet because we've still got that oil line that we've got to put back on. I'm just kind of snugging it up. We were drawing it down even. I've actually chased intake leaks before. I've had those flanges warp. You can replace intake seals all day long, and if those flanges are warped, you're still gonna have an intake leak. All right. What I say, 120? That's what I was gonna go to, right? Yep, ish. There's that side. Now this side will be the tricky side. I don't know if I can get in here or not. May have to, oh yeah, we can get in there. Sometimes I've got a cut off Allen that I've got to put in there. There we go. Again, this is easier to do because I don't have any lower rocker boxes in the way. There we go. So our throttle body's in and tight. I'm going to take my breather bolts back out because that throttle body will stay where it's at now. Because I'll want to put some sealant, that sealant that I use on those compression releases, I use that on these bolts also. And the only reason I'm taking this back off is just for clearance. I don't want to hit it putting these lower rockers on. I'm telling you, I think if we had beer, we could get more people in here.
I don't think anyone's gonna argue with that.
Huh?
We have a bar back there.
We do have a bar. I am going to go ahead and hook my throttle body connector up. This is our, these don't matter because I hooked the map sensor back up. And I'm going to go ahead and run this one before I forget because this one kind of has, you got to make sure you get it routed correctly. All right, now we can get our lower rocker boxes cleaned up. These are our lower rocker boxes right here. So we're going to take this gasket out of here. It almost reminds me of like a derby cover gasket, the new orange ones. And I will take some brake clean. And I'm just going to run it all the way around. And I'll kind of grab the corner of my rag and I will run it down into the groove here. I don't like to have any oil down in there. All I want down in there is my new gasket. Get a real good seal. Because the last thing we want is for Mr. McNabb to get on this bike and ride it a little ways and realize that one of these gaskets is leaking. Because then we got to take it back apart. We don't want to have to do that. Just like that. That one's cleaned up. I haven't heard Mike making any comments yet.
You did earlier.
Did he? I figure he's busy being a GM and all now. You don't have time to play. Oh, can you see him on there?
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah. There we go. Got all the oil out of our groove. These are our new gaskets. think numbers go up. I don't think it matters. But you just kind of work this gasket in all the way around. One of the Harley instructors, actually HB, he's kind of the guy that knows everything there is to know about everything when it comes to Harley-Davidson. He was saying that some guys actually take an old set of heads and they'll set this in there and then they'll bolt it to the old set of heads just to kind of seat that gasket down in there. So yeah, you just got to make sure that it is in all the way around. Just like that. And I try to work it kind of all the way around at once, because if you start on one side and sometimes you can't get all of that gasket to fit down in that groove. So that's why I kind of work all the way around, just so it kind of goes in nice and even. There we go. Those are ready to go on. So I think Ray did most of our cleanup work for us on our bolts. Let's see here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's right. So we got 4 and 4. There's the one that we broke that stud off. What do you want to bet? They got us this, but they didn't get us this. We need to talk to Mike about that. So again, I'm going to take a little bit of brake clean on a rag. It's not something we got to worry about too much because these are brand new heads, but I'm just going to go around this gasket surface. I just want to make sure that I don't have any oil or assembly lube or anything on there. Can't forget about the one in the center, because there is a gasket surface there in the center where this O-ring goes. Something I am going to do while I'm over here that I just noticed, I'm going to put spark plug. I'm not going to screw the spark plugs all the way in, but I'm going to put these spark plugs down inside these holes just in case. We don't want anything, this motor's going together, so we don't want anything to get down into the motor, not while we're this far along. So I'll put these spark plugs in there just to fill these holes, just so nothing falls down in there. It's the only reason I'm doing it. So now we're going to put our rocker box, our lower rocker box on. Some of the stuff that we've got to look out for when we put this thing together is your compression release wire. That compression release wire actually is going to come up through this hole right here. So you gotta feed that through there while you're putting this on. And then I just kind of lay it back over there in that groove like that, because you don't want to put your top cover on and pinch that wire. Something that I will do, sometimes that gasket that we just installed here will get hung up on the valve springs. So a lot of times what I'll do is once I got it on there, I'll just kind of look, lift it up and look, make sure that that gasket is still in there all the way around. Like that. I'm in all the way around over here. I'm going to double check this side before I start putting bolts in it. But basically I just want to make sure that that green gasket that I just put in there is still in the groove where it's supposed to be. And it is. These bolts that we're getting ready to put in, we're going to use blue Loctite. This one actually, this is a brand new one. That's the one that we broke the other one off in. It actually comes with a dry lock patch on it. It's like a pink lock patch. So those are 3/8. All I'm doing right now is I'm looking in the book because eventually I'm going to need the sequence, lower rocker covers, there we are. I'll need the sequence and I'll need the torque specs.
His feet can actually touch you.
All right, let's see. Install screws and stud, tighten in sequence to 90 to 120. So I'll probably go like 110. We start right here. That's one. Coming over there for 2 and 3. There's 2. There's 3. This is 4. That stud in the middle is going to be 5, but that's a different size.
Do you guys have a dyno here?
We do. It's actually kind of right back there in that corner is where they put it. Hopefully we're going to have a video. I don't know if we'll do a live thing, but it won't be live. Yeah, we're definitely going to have some cameras set up in there, so that we can, we'll show the whole process, loading it in there, getting it strapped down and making some runs. Problem with the dyno right now, we haven't been able to run it in the last couple of weeks because it hasn't been above freezing. And with the new WinPep 8 software, which is the software that I use to run the dyno, it knows the temperature. It knows the temperature, it knows the barometric pressure, it knows a lot of the, outside, density, air density, stuff like that. And you can watch the temperature. You get into the room and the temperature's reading like 70 degrees. You flip the fan on, because I got there's 2 tubes going up through the ceiling that are probably, 2 foot in diameter, and it changes the air in the room every 3 seconds. So you can watch the temperature on the computer go from 70 to like 35 in seconds. And once it gets down to like 30, it'll send an error message that the dyno's too cold, and it won't let me make runs. It'll let me make runs, but it won't let me sample them or record them. So it makes it difficult. But I know that we've got like 2 or 3 that need to get in there. And heck, I think I saw 40s next week, I think. Yeah. I think I saw 36 tomorrow, so. Yeah, you know. Not only that, but there's always the chance of, you know, like a bike like this, if we were going to be putting like an actual tuner on it, I would want it to be a little warmer out, you know, to get a good tune on it. Will it affect it when it's 90 or 100? I don't know if it would a lot, but. It's in a room. We actually brought the room from the old shop. They disassembled the room. The room's made by a company out of Iowa, I think, and it's a soundproof room. But the air intake, you know, comes from the ceiling. You know, that the old shop, it came from just outside the building, so it's pulling fresh air in. So it does not take long to cool that room off. Just like in the summer, when it's like 90 or 100 degrees outside and we've got the AC going back there in the shop at like 65, 70 degrees, you throw one of these bikes in the dyno and kick that fan on and everything fogs up.
Take long to heat up.
Yeah, it'll heat up quick.
That's a lack of questions.
Yeah, old Kyle said he was going to watch. Is Kyle watching? He found old Dipstick Daddy on Instagram. There it is.
Great Instagram name though.
I gotta thank Austin, because Austin helped me come up with that. He wanted like Dipstick Dan, I think it was. I was like, yeah, but I got 3 kids, so doesn't Dipstick Daddy make more sense?
Watching it have like 1,000 followers.
There we go. Lower rocker boxes are on. So after we get the lower rocker boxes on, now it's time to put the rocker arms in. We get the rocker arms in and our breathers. Our breathers should come with new O-rings. Yep, they do. That's our front, that's our rear. All I'm doing is getting the oil off of the threads, because we do use blue Loctite. Put these back down on there and make sure we got clean threads. We are going to change these O-rings out. Sometimes you got to be careful getting these O-rings off of here, because I have broken the plastic before. Break the plastic and you got to buy a new one. There we go, just like that. A little blue Loctite. These just set down in there like that. That O-ring, there's a hole inside the head, and that O-ring just sits down in it. Just like that. We are cooking with gas though. Not a lot of questions. This thing running, no time.
Very long though.
And I'm gonna double check the torque on these breathers. 90 to 120 inch-pounds. And we're at 110, so we're good. Okay, breathers are in and torqued. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put the jack underneath the motorcycle. We're gonna jack it up so the rear wheel's off the ground, because when we go to bolt the rockers in, we gotta make sure that we roll the motor over so that we're gonna watch our push rods. Well, we'll get it going and I'll show you. Okay, we're still in 6th gear, so that's good. I am gonna pop these spark plugs out momentarily while we roll this motor over, or you won't be able to roll the motor over. I'm surprised nobody said anything about the hardware. Yeah, the hardware.
I've been showing it a lot.
So as we roll this motor over, we're gonna watch these push rods right here. And if, see that rear exhaust one just went to move. So we're gonna watch that. We want that to go back down. Intake's coming up. Intake's going down. Okay, so both of these are down. That means we're on the base circle of the cam. So that means as we bolt the rocker down in there, it's gonna apply the least amount of force to the valve springs and our bolts and our rocker arm shaft. If these were up on the lobe of the cam, like down where I'm talking about the cam, I'm talking about down there. So if the other end of this push rod or the roller is on the lobe of the cam and up, as we bolt this rocker in, we're actually gonna be opening the valve, and we don't wanna open the valve as we're tightening the rocker arm down. You could crack a rocker arm shaft, you could crack one of these towers, and we don't wanna do that. Again, I'm just gonna make sure there's no oil on our threads here. Give them a little squirt, some brake clean. Because we are gonna put some blue Loctite on these as we go back together. Like that. People always ask me why I blow on the bolts, and it's honestly just to get that Loctite just to kind of go around the rest of the bolt. There we go. See, so there won't be a whole lot of pull on that rocker arm when we go to bolt it down. That's what we want. So there, it just got tight. I don't know if you can see that or not, but it still has to pull down just a little bit. So what it's doing as we snug this up, we'll snug it just that much. Now we're gonna let it sit there while I get this other rocker arm in, let that lifter bleed down just a little bit. I put Loctite on these? Sure didn't. Too late for questions today. What's up?
John Meadows asking, outside of playing, so I'm assuming it's just meaning speed, would there be any benefit in getting a snake easier?
Well, this one, easier than putting that right to another gear.
Well, sure.
It's about 40 degrees.
I mean, it doesn't matter if you're doing long miles or short miles. Everybody likes to go fast and get there in a hurry. You know what I mean? This right here, I don't think is going to affect the longevity of this motorcycle at all. You would have the same issues, the same leaks or whatever are going to occur with this motor as the 114 or the 107 or a twin cam. The difference is when you get this thing loaded down for that long trip, say you're going to Sturgis, okay, so you've got all of your gear, you've got your wife on the back, and you've got to go out and around a semi. With this thing, you don't have to downshift, you just hit it and you're gone. Whereas if you were still running a stock 114, you may have to downshift out of 6th into 5th to get out and around a semi. Once you get out and around it and that wind hits you, with this 131, you're not going to feel, you go. And then all of your buddies are going to want to be keeping up with you. I.e. why Luke is asking what I'm doing with that 551 that I'm taking out of my bike. Okay, rocker arms, 23 to 27 foot-pounds. That little bitty 5/16 screw is going to go to 23 to 27 foot-pounds. So I'm going to go to 25. These things are bleeding down. Yep, see? So now we're almost there where we need to be. So let's see here. Where is... All I'm using is this cool little toolkit here that actually will make these. The other side, I'm not going to be able to get my torque wrench in there with that socket because it's a 1/4 inch socket. It's a 5/16 12 point. So this side I'd be okay. I could put an adapter on there, no problem. I can get this one torqued down. The other side, I'm going to have to use a torque adapter. So I'll just go ahead and do it. Do I have my... Nope, I don't have my reducer. So I got that one. We got that one. So now what we got to do on the other side is I've got a torque adapter. So I'll take my 5/16 that actually has a 7/16 up here on the top of it. I'll take my torque wrench. I'm gonna set this torque adapter to 90 degrees for my torque wrench. You can set it at 90 degrees and you're not increasing the torque. If you set your torque adapter like this, you just made your handle longer on your torque wrench, so you're no longer at 25 foot-pounds. You're gonna be higher than 25 foot-pounds. If you keep it at 90, you're gonna go to 25. And we can set this down on here. Just like that, so we can get into these tight spaces. That's that. Our rocker arm shafts are in tight. At this point, some like to go ahead and go to work on the front, putting the front rockers in. I learned years ago not to do that, especially when you're building hot rod motors, because these lifters may not have bled down all the way yet. So if we go to roll this motor over right now and these lifters aren't bled down, we could bend a valve, we could cause engine damage, and we just don't want to do that. So at this point, normally what I will do is I'll go ahead and finish this cylinder. So I'll go ahead and put this cover on. And putting this cover on will allow these lifters to bleed down. By the time I get this cover on, then we can roll the motor over. We'll sign our name in there so they know who worked on it.
There we go.
There are people that do that. Yeah.
Some car companies do that too.
Yeah. Our gasket. Our gasket even tells us which way's up. Can't read it like that, so you can read it like that. Gasket just sits in there like that. This cover goes on. Again, we're going to use blue Loctite on our bolts going back together. And we are going to be one bolt short because I guarantee you that they didn't order the right bolt. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Most of the time I'll put these two bolts in just to kind of center my gasket. Just so that I know that my gasket is where it's supposed to be. Yes, sir.
I'm not aware of a mile per hour cap, but does this build have the 100%?
With the street tuner, yes, it would. Yeah. It might not be it might go a little faster than 110. I'll find out in the dyno. But yeah, I am aware of people talking about the Screamin' Eagle tuner does set a limit. If you go with an aftermarket tuner like a Power Vision, it does not have any limit. But we're not going to do that with this because we want to keep it within warranty. Plus, 110 mile an hour on 126th Street's fast enough, right?
Yeah, you might be able to do that on the line. Not that I would do.
My bike will do it. In between cars.
Sorry, Fisher's Police.
Yeah, right. Hey, it's only when Kickstart My Heart's on.
Just put it on repeat, it's okay.
All right, we've about got all of our bolts started. All 10 of them. This last one in here. Too good for your home? Get in the hole. There it is. All right, so all of our bolts are started.
Yeah. But you can't ride anything comfortable very far. And there was straight lines. That's all that was. Straight line bike. You want to see some straight into the outlet?
Pretty sure the 25-year anniversary of that movie was recently.
I heard somebody saying that. Happy Gilmore?
Yeah.
Where's my
Adam Sandler and,
7/16? There it
The who
is.
played Shooter made a video about it, and it's pretty awesome.
Shooter McGavin. And you can count on me waiting for you in the parking lot. It'd be crazy if Adam Sandler sees this. And thanks for the shout out.
Yeah. I've tried that golf swing. Not very good at it.
I'm not necessarily going in sequence right now. I'm just running these down so they're closer, and then we will definitely follow the sequence. Right, it's getting kind of busy in here. That's a good sign.
It is.
Everybody's up. Long night.
People starting to see the warm weather coming. Be ready for it.
Well, I know old Randy Ollis says that we're in for another snowstorm, I think Thursday.
Oh, good.
But that was day before yesterday that I heard that, so hopefully that's changed.
It's Indiana.
All right, just wait 5 minutes. Shout out to Asher. It's his birthday today, right?
Yes, sir.
Happy birthday, Asher. I'm sure your dad shows you this video when you get older. All right, so we got all of those down. Now I'm going to look at the book right here, upper rocker cover, because we definitely have a torque sequence that we need to follow so we get the best seal out of that gasket. And we're going to go to rocker cover 120 to 140. So we'll set that right in the middle and go to 130. We're gonna start right here. Number 2 is over there. I may go 2 and 3 are over there, so. Four's right here. Five is right here. Six should be in the middle. Seven's on the other side. Number 7. Number 8, it's right here. Number 9. Ten is that center stud, which I am going to grab a wrench for, because I don't want that stud to turn down there in the bottom when we go to put some torque on it. There we go. And the only reason we do that is because these bolts get torqued to more than that stud. That stud went to 110, and these are going to 130. So we don't want that to move down there on the bottom. Rear rocker box is on. This cylinder is basically done. So now I'm going to move to the front. Like I said, the only reason I did that is to let these lifters bleed down so that I can roll this motor over without the fear of bending a valve or doing any kind of engine damage. So actually I can probably do this from over here. No, I can't either. Spark plugs in. Intake's coming up. Intake's going down. That intake goes down and we're good. Right there. Yep. I see that Dalton has joined us.
Asking silly questions, of course.
You know what, though? All joking aside, Dalton is like the face of this dealership. You know, if you don't want to get out in this snow and you want somebody to come get your motorcycle, Dalton's pretty much the guy. And then we work on it, and then it goes back to you, and you may never see us, but you see Dalton twice. He's the face of our dealership. It's scary sometimes, but hey, it's just the stash. You know, sometimes that stash gets out of control. I don't need that yet. What am I doing? Talking about stashes. Get these rocker bolts cleaned up.
Hey, Booth,
Yes, sir.
how long does it take to break in this decision?
It all depends on who you talk to. There's people that'll probably tell you you got to ride it at a certain RPM for a certain amount of time. We're going right in the dyno. You know, we're going to tune it. So what I will do is I will take it through a heat cycle or two. And by heat cycle, I mean I'm going to fire this thing up. I'm going to let it idle. I'm not going to rap on the throttle. I'm going to let it idle until I can feel this rear rocker box getting warm. Once this gets warm, that tells me that there's enough heat that's gotten through the motor. I'm going to shut it off. I'll probably do that right before I go home one day so that I can let it cool down overnight. So it goes all the way back down to room temperature. And then I may do the same thing the next day. I'll fire it up, let it warm up, let it cool off. After a couple of heat cycles, I'm going right in the dyno to start tuning. So The one thing that I will do, if anybody's ever been out to the drag strip before and watched them rebuild, do the turnaround on the drag cars, something that helps seat the piston rings. You put it in like third gear on the dyno, put a little bit of a load on it, and you just kind of hammer it wide open, take it up to like $4,000, back off, let it come back down to like $2,500, $3,000, hit it again. It's just that what you're doing is you're making those piston rings really work against the cylinder walls. That helps seat those rings in. They do it out at the drag strip. You'll hear them, wah, 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 and all they're doing is they're seating those rings into that motor. And I'll try to do similar on the dyno with the bike running. And after that, ride it. You know, they're same, when I get my bike done, I'm doing a whole bottom end, top end, new cams, new everything. I'll do the same thing. I'll take it through a heat cycle, and it's going right on the dyno, and we're making 100% passes. You know, and I won't do it with Kyle's bike, obviously, because it's not mine. But once I get my bike out of the dyno, it's rolling burnout down Reynolds Drive. You know what I mean? So I don't. I come from that group that says break them in like you're going to ride them. You know, and if you're going to ride it, ride it. One thing I will say, as part of the break-in, just bring it in after 500 miles or so that we can change the oil. When we do a complete engine overhaul like this, it's always a good idea to bring it in, change the oil, get some fresh oil in it after it's like 500 to 1,000 miles. Let it kind of, you know, these new parts are obviously going to wear. And so you'll want to get it in. You want to get some of that metal out of there. The drain plugs will catch it. Get some fresh oil, new filter. And, yeah, then we won't see you for 5,000 miles, you know, when it's time for the next service. I think there are some people that will tell you after you get this done, you shouldn't hop on it and say ride to Florida at a steady RPM, right? You kind of fluctuate your RPMs a little bit, maybe for the first 500 to 1,000 miles. And I think that just has to do with they don't want you running it at a steady speed for 500 miles. I think S&S will tell you that. They'll tell you to fluctuate your RPM. But like I said, this thing's going right in the dyno when we get done with it. So aside from a couple heat cycles, we're not going to break it in. Doing all right today?
Oh, yeah.
I like that hat.
Just bought it.
Did you just buy that? It looks good on you.
It'll feel good out there.
That's right. $25. Okay. Front rockers are in. Brake clean on a rag. Just clean this gasket surface up. Is that Dio? Dio! Holy dive.
I think this might be Kill Switch's version though.
Yeah.
Pretty sure it is.
Still Holy Diver though.
Yeah, still, yeah. Equally as good.
Right. Again, gasket. We got to be able to read that up. Just like that. Now then, we're going to be one bolt short. Hey, Dalton. Yeah, I need Ray. I need him to go rob a bolt for me. We haven't even given a shout out to RC yet, have we?
Sure have not.
Yeah. RC's probably not watching. He's probably working. And where is he working? At Terre Haute. We sent RC out to Terre Haute. He's been exiled or for a couple weeks. He's just helping.
He's like the savior right now.
Yeah. If I can get one of these guys. I need one of these cover bolts. There's a bike on RC's lift. Just grab one, please, and thank you.
I really like the stage 4 emblem on there.
Huh?
I like
The stage 4?
Yeah, the Screamin
Yeah.
emblem. I like that a lot.
Right. Some people don't want it on there. Nah, bro. It's stock. Yeah. It doesn't sound stock.
Oh, it is. It is. Want to do a run?
I'm running out of parts. That's a good thing. Yeah, oil lines, some stabilizer brackets. Well, yeah, we got obviously the exhaust. Yeah, we got the oil line that we broke. That came in. We're gonna have to change that out. I'm kind of waiting on Ray right now to get me a bolt. The bolt that we broke on the back we ordered the stud that has the broken off bolt in it, but they didn't get me the bolt. So I'm kind of robbing Peter to pay Paul right now. Never happens. Oh, wait. I didn't get my cam chains for my bike this week, did I?
Sounds like a personal problem. But you did get your rocker lockers.
I did get rocker lockers, that's a fact. My original apprentice, I have to thank for that. Blued up, ready to go?
No, I didn't blue it.
Thank you, Ray.
Yes, sir.
All right. He's still at 130. Yep. Starting right here with number 1. 2's up here.
So much more clearance.
Yeah. 3's back there. Four. 5. 6, 7. 8. 9. 10. There we go. Just like that. Rocker boxes are on. I think I'm going to go ahead and put the backing plate for the air cleaner on, but I'm not going to install this air cleaner yet because I'm going to have Ray clean it out. I don't know if you can see that or not, but there is a ton of crap in here, okay? And this is going to sit right here. So this is where all the dirt and the bugs and everything are going to hit this breather. Make sure you clean your breathers. These motors like air. They like clean air. Double check the gasket on the back side of this. Everything looks good. Our O-rings aren't damaged, so we can go ahead and put that on. I am going to put a little bit of blue Loctite on the bolts. These breather bolts. I'm going to run this Permatex. This is the liquid pipe tape we were talking about. It's got a little bit of blue Loctite in it. It's going to help hold these. Not only does it help hold them, but it also helps seal them. We got oil. This is where the top end of the motor breathes, so there's going to be oil wanting to come out of here, and that helps. Put a little bit of that sealant on it. My 7/16, there it is. Look at that, perfect. I think we aligned that up or something. I think these go to 60 inch-pounds, 50 to 60. These breather bolts go a lot tighter. I'm gonna look them up because I think they're 20. Let's see, that would be under the. It's just the air filter. Yeah. Got a hole in my glove. There's our backing plate. Let's see. These are our breather tubes. Sometimes we'll clean these off with a little bit of brake clean. Coming out of the top end of the motor, that oil is supposed to travel down these tubes and get sucked back through the induction module or the throttle body, and the idea is that oil gets burnt back to the motor. As everybody knows, sometimes that doesn't happen, and then it'll settle in here, and then it'll settle down here, and then it drips down onto your cam cover. If that happens, it's time to get in and get it cleaned. All right, so I think we're about ready to put that oil line on.
Yeah. Lift will jump out at you. I'm gonna go there, so I might be in your way from on the side. No idea.
There we go. Back in neutral.
Nate, we're gonna need to change mics really fast.
Yep. On it.
Sorry, everyone. Okay, now let's turn that on. Let's see.
What's up?
I need you to have a new mic.
Mike?
Yeah, Mike.
Mike.
Fluffy Mike died. You can just run that through your shirt or whatever, or just run it right there. But you gotta.
Whole lot of wire, huh? I'm not wearing a wire. Could you say it a little louder? Okay. So this oil line is going to make a mess because we got oil that's probably sitting up in it. I'm not too worried about that right now. I can change that whenever. Main thing is getting this oil line back to the top of the motor. And see how we got some oil dripping out of it. It'll make a mess if we're not careful. So there's O-rings on this oil line, 2 at either end. There's one. There's the other one. One, 2. We always change our O-rings. Those have been smashed. They've been through heat cycles. We get ready to put that other oil line on there. I'm gonna probably run some Scotch-Brite around that because you can see where that line got stuck. There's still some rubber stuck to it actually. Let me get my O-rings for that oil line. I'll go ahead and put all these O-rings on before I put this line on. You just got to be careful as you're installing it not to knock them off. They do sit on there pretty good. Then we just set this back down on here. It's kind of like a puzzle. You gotta be careful. You don't want to scratch anything. Just nice and easy. We're basically there on the back. Real close on the front. There. The front just set in there. The back's in. So I'll make sure that we've got this in. There's holes in the head that line right up, and you'll feel it. It'll snap right into place. So I got 4 bolts that hold that line to the heads. There's 2 in the front, 2 in the back. We're gonna put some blue Loctite on them, and we're gonna run those in. Grab my torque wrench. These go 90 to 120 also. So I'll probably take them to like 110. These back ones are pretty easy because we can just get a regular socket on them. There we go. The front ones are a little bit more difficult just because we got the main oil line in the way. Right here, that line can be in the way sometimes and they can be kind of difficult to get to. Big ass light here.
Me either.
There we go. We're started anyhow. That's the main thing. I just hear a lot of gold talk behind me. So I'm kind of holding the line over with my fingers so that I can get that on there, and I'm just going to walk that in by hand. Do the same thing with the bottom. That one's tight. That one's tight. Give it back. There we go. All right, so our oil line that goes over the top of the motor is back on. It's tight. Now we can start hooking a lot of this stuff up. I got an injector wire that I got to get untangled. There's an injector wire. This one right here goes over this line. You really got to pay close attention to how these wires go because there's not a lot of room for error. If I would have left that injector line coming underneath this oil line right here, okay, and plugged it into the injector, it's going to sit here on this side and it's going to rub this oil line. It's going to rub and it's going to rub and then it's eventually going to rub through the wire and then we've got a direct short to ground. That can leave you on the side of the road. So you've really got to pay attention to how all these wires go. Get them back the way they're designed to work. That's our horn wire. That's going to hook into our horn bracket that we're going to install here in a minute. Now, I just plugged that. That's our knock sensor, our rear knock sensor. I just plugged that in. There's also a secondary lock. There, I don't know if you heard that or not, but that's the secondary lock. So let me do the front one here. So it will go in and click, but then there's also a secondary lock that comes in and it locks it. What that secondary lock does is it holds it in so that the connector can't just vibrate and just pop out of here. It's got two locks on it. So our front compression release wire goes right there. Our rear compression release wire goes right there. One thing I did not bring, I'm not going to hook this oil line up just yet because I don't have my pliers for that crimp out here with me. Yep. So actually we can go ahead and I'm going to anti-seize up these threads of these spark plugs. We'll run the spark plugs in. We can put the plug wires on. We're going to get that horn bracket on there. And then we got to put our this front stabilizer. We're going to have to jack that motor up like we did when we started. We're going to put that stabilizer back in there. I don't want to dance. Yeah, hopefully RC's doing pretty good out there, making some money today. I know we're going to get 10 more new ones in this coming week. So look for those. Actually, we're getting 9 bikes and a trike. Yeah. Not only that, but we got a reveal on Monday, right? Is it Tuesday? Is the Pan America's going to get the reveal?
Is that our first one?
Yeah. He said Abby's dad might have been interested in it. What?
20% battery left on the phone.
20%. Well, I mean, we're almost back to where we started. You know what I mean? And we can keep. What time is it? Oh, so we're doing good.
Wow, yeah.
And they thought we wouldn't get it done. I guess technically it's not running, right?
Well, back to where we had it.
Yeah, back to where we had it. There'll be some other stuff that I'll have to do, i.e. that oil cooler over there. There's a new oil cooler that comes with this kit that actually has a fan built onto it, help keep this thing a little cooler.
Throwing the exhaust back on, so.
Yep, getting the exhaust back on. See, that's what I mean by getting this stuff back where it goes. You know, putting that right back where we took it off. It's there for a reason. Go get a 9/16. Mike Vasquez.
Yeah, he's asking what's taking so long. I said, answering your questions.
Yeah, what was it he said yesterday? You want to move east? Get that checkbook out. I'm kidding. I love it here.
Screamin for us. Wouldn't be as long.
Engine mount, there it is. Front 30. Yep, we're gonna go 30. No, I grew up here. I like Fishers. There's our horn bracket, that's on. So now I'm gonna take this jack and I'm gonna get, I need to get my little block of wood over there. Again, I'm just kind of jacking the motor up, and we're going to kind of tilt it because there's that one bolt that goes on the other side that is very difficult to get in if we don't do that. So our little puzzle here. Just like that. Put this side in, it'll kind of hold it for us. We'll go over and get the other side in. This is where we tape this thing up. And just like that. Ratchet wrench action here. So Mike wants to know what's taking so long. Tell him something about he didn't order that part he told us he was going to order. How much more what? Are you about dead? So it can run? Exhaust and gas tank basically, and that oil line.
Technically need an exhaust to start it.
Right. Why, you want to do another one next weekend? No. If I can get a socket on this. Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean we're basically back where we started. I got to get my hose clamp pliers so I can crimp this down. I don't want to forget to do that. I need that oil line. I can replace that oil line. And yeah, we're ready for exhaust and gas tank. I'm going to clean the air filter while I got it off. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. I mean, yeah. That's I think that's all we got for this 131 build here at HD of Indy. Come in and see us. Right, Nate? Huh?
Let's see. We'll finish up all the rest of it probably Monday.
I'm not here Monday, so yeah, we can do Tuesday. And honestly, I want to get it done sooner than later. Actually, I've got a service that I'm working on that I started this morning. I get that service done, I'll probably throw this on a lift so that I can get that oil cooler on there. You know what we could do? We could throw we could throw a badge on here.
The symbolic finish.
Yeah, right? If I can find there it is. It is a dog. Actually, I really could go for some alcohol. Like, no, like alcohol to clean this. Nice try, though. Hey, does this mic have a distance thing on it? Okay. I need I need a little bit of alcohol so I can swab this off of here. So I take the mic off.
It's always so awkward just standing here.
I mean, I'm just going to enjoy this mic this time. Because, you know, what's better than Kyle? So, I mean, at this point, we have 2 previous service managers tuning into the broadcast. Yeah, Mr. Morgan and Mr. Vasquez. So, oh, here he comes. Just as I got my chance on the mic, too. Damn.
All I'm doing is wiping this off with some alcohol right here so that this badge sticks from here. I don't want that badge to come off of there.
The mic's still on the ground.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, you're fluffy. You put that back on.
Sorry. Is that better? There. The fluffy. Actually, before I stick that on there, I'm going to bolt it on. Blue Loctite. Blue Loctite's on the other side. He did? This is the icing on the cake here, so to speak. That's the bread and butter right there.
Nice.
And I did grab my pliers so I could put this oil line back on while I was back there. Yeah, I was just pulling some of the tape off. Yes, sir.
How's that pipe bracket up? Where's that pipe bracket up in the back end of it?
Well, it's going to mount up just like the stock one does.
Yeah.
So there's a bracket that goes around here on the stock one, and it'll bolt right there. It's like a P-clamp almost that they have. If you look at like that one right there, will have it on the other side. And so I'll have to take that off of his old header and put that, and it's going to mount right there. And then there'll be a clamp right here for that crossover that goes over. And so it'll clamp right here. And then there's a bracket that goes around the pipe, the crossover pipe, that's going to bolt right there.
A crossover pipe?
Yeah.
Like boards off?
Yeah.
Makes it look like it is?
Right. Well, just like these. How they got the. We've got one in the shop. Somebody did that.
What?
They made it a 2-in-1, capped it off. Well, I guess I could replace that oil line. I might have to take the starter out. Can't tell if it's moving or not. Might need a bigger screwdriver. I don't have a bigger screwdriver back here. I do have a pair of pliers though. Low on battery. Yeah, that's not gonna come. We'll have to get back in the back, get some tools for that. Let's see, and if I take that oil line off of the front, I mean, I can show you what I'm gonna do. Before you run out of battery life. So this bike has an oil cooler on it. Okay, that's the oil cooler right there. So we've got an oil cooler on there. The one thing that this oil cooler has that that one doesn't is this fan right back here. So we got this fan is going to help draw air through that oil cooler to help keep this oil cool. I believe this is stock on the CVO models. The CVO comes with a air-assisted oil cooler. I think that's it, man. That's about all I can do without going back into the back. Yeah, we'll take another video when we get it all done.
Yeah,
right?
so that wraps up the 3 live streams. And then we got what? So we're going to finish this up maybe this afternoon or Tuesday at the latest.
Yep.
Then we'll definitely get on the dyno next week.
Yeah, with the warm weather coming in, I definitely want to get into the dyno.
So we'll do dyno, so we'll do some filming there. And then look for, a pre-produced dyno video probably later this month, early March. Depends how many hours I want to spend editing video over the next couple of weeks, really. But yeah, thanks for tuning in, everyone.
Thanks to Nate.
Yeah,
Cameraman.
big thanks to Nate. Till next time.
Zoom into your face.
Zoom into my face. Do it.
Oh, yeah.
And there we go.